The sun over Coronado burned white and merciless, turning the asphalt grinder into a sheet of shimmering glass. Heat rose in waves, blurring the figures of men pacing in formation. Each footstep struck with the rhythm of training, the endless grind of discipline, sweat, and pride. In the middle of that storm of bodies stood a lone figure, small, motionless, and silent. Lieutenant Mara Hayes, gray PT shorts, faded navy tee, hair twisted into a no-nonsense knot. No rank insignia, no armor of authority. Just another candidate on paper, but not to the men watching. Rumor moved faster than the sea breeze. She's the one they sent from Fleet Security, the only woman crazy enough to step on the grinder. Let's see how long she lasts. Then the whistle blew. Every head snapped toward the source. Master Chief Navarro, carved from years of salt and command, his voice carrying the weight of every graduation and failure this concrete had ever seen. Front and center! Mara stepped forward, boots scuffed, heartbeat steady. Around her the air vibrated with curiosity and quiet hostility. Navarro didn't need to shout. His presence was pressure enough. Lieutenant Hayes, Master Chief. He circled her like a hawk, slow and deliberate, assessing every detail, her stance, her breathing, the faint twitch in her jaw. "Tell me something, Lieutenant," he said. "What makes you think you belong here?" "Same thing that brings anyone here, Master Chief. Orders and purpose." A few of the trainees chuckled under their breath. Navarro's mouth tilted slightly, not quite a smile, not yet contempt. "You've got both," he said, "but purpose alone doesn't make a SEAL, and orders don't mean a damn thing when the surf's choking you." "I'll find out soon enough," she replied. Her tone wasn't defiant. It was flat, steady, unshakable. The kind of composure that either meant strength or foolishness. Navarro couldn't tell which yet. He turned to the formation. "You heard her. Let's see what finding out looks like. Form up. Grinder evolution." Navarro's bark sliced through the heavy air. Every trainee fell in, boots thudding in unison. The asphalt radiated heat that bit through their souls. The smell of salt and jet fuel drifted from the bay. "Today," Navarro growled, "you're going to learn what failure tastes like." They dropped into push-up position. Sandbags, tires, and stretchers lined the edge of the grinder, ready to become instruments of misery. Sweat darkened gray shirts almost instantly. Down! Bodies hit the ground. Up! Grunts and curses blended with the rhythm. Hayes matched every count. Her movements were controlled, mechanical, but she kept perfect pace. Navarro's eyes flicked toward her more than once, not out of concern but calculation. "Move to the sandpit." The formation broke into a sprint. Dust kicked up, coating their legs in a gritty film. When they reached the pit, Navarro tossed a soaked log across the line. 6 men grabbed it. Hayes stepped forward, taking the last empty position without hesitation. One of the trainees scoffed. "This log's heavier than you, ma'am." Hayes didn't respond. She just set her shoulder under the weight. Navarro's whistle shrieked, "Over the head, hold it!" The log rose, unsteady at first, then leveled. Hayes's arms trembled, but the strain in her face wasn't weakness, it was focus. Navarro watched in silence. The sun glinted off his aviators as he paced. 15 seconds, he said. "If that log drops, your entire crew pays for it." A bead of sweat traced a path down Hayes's temple. Her breathing deepened, measured, precise. The man beside her faltered. The log tilted. Without a word, Hayes shifted, taking more of the weight. Navarro's voice cracked across the pit. 10, 9. She locked her elbows. The veins in her forearms stood out like wire. 3, 2, 1. Down! The log slammed to the ground, kicking up a cloud of sand. Navarro waited for someone to collapse. No one did. Hayes straightened, face unreadable. The man who'd mocked her stared at her for a long second, then looked away. They ran surf drills next. Endless plunges into freezing Pacific water followed by sprints back to the grinder. Every time the waves slammed them down, filling their mouths with salt. Every time Hayes surfaced first. Navarro's stopwatch clicked. Again. By the 6th run, a few trainees were shivering, lips pale. Hayes's teeth chattered, but her stride never broke. Navarro stopped the group after the 7th. "Lieutenant Hayes," he called. She jogged over, boots squelching. "You enjoying my ocean?" "No, Master Chief." "Good. You're not supposed to." A faint smirk touched the corner of his mouth, the kind that hinted for the first time at respect earned the hard way. That night, after chow, the barracks hummed with the low buzz of exhaustion. Boots clunked against lockers. Someone laughed at a half-told story about a busted inflatable boat. Hayes sat on the edge of her bunk, rolling her shoulders. Her arms burned from the day's punishment, but she didn't massage them. Pain was information. She listened to it quietly. Across the aisle, the same trainee who'd mocked her earlier, Petty Officer Riker, hesitated, then spoke. "Hey, Lieutenant." She looked up. "You didn't quit today?" "I wasn't planning to." He nodded once, awkward. "Didn't think you'd hold that log? None of us did. Then maybe next time you'll think bigger." He almost smiled. "Fair." From the doorway, Navarro's voice cut in. "Lights out in 5." The barracks fell silent, Hayes lay back tracing the cracked ceiling. Outside, the Pacific roared against the beach, the same endless rhythm she'd face again tomorrow. She wasn't here to prove she could suffer. She was here to prove she could lead. Reveille shattered the quiet long before dawn. A whistle, a door slam, the metallic scrape of bunks. Within seconds, the barracks turned from a tomb of sleeping bodies to a hive of motion. Outside, mist clung to the asphalt. Floodlights cut through it in hard white beams, illuminating the grinder like a stage. Navarro waited at the edge of the formation, coffee mug in one hand, clipboard in the other. He didn't need a megaphone. His presence was the alarm. "Good morning, sunshine," he said when Hayes jogged up. "You sleep well?" "Like a brick, Master Chief." "Let's see if you float." They moved to the docks. The air was cold enough to bite. The Pacific rolled dark and indifferent, waves slapping against the rubber hulls of the boats tethered nearby. "Boat drills," Navarro said. "Inflation, navigation, extraction. You'll run through the sequence until I get bored watching you fail." The team split off, each crew dragging an inflatable Zodiac down to the shallows. Hayes took bow position with Riker at the tiller. The rest fell into rhythm, commands, oars, water, breath. For a while it was mechanical perfection. Then the wind shifted. It started as a whisper, barely enough to disturb the mist. Then suddenly the fog rolled back, revealing an incoming swell. A wall of water rose farther out, driven by an unexpected current surge. "Reel them in," Navarro shouted from the pier. "Get those boats clear." 3 of the Zodiacs turned quick enough. 1 didn't. Riker's boat. The wave hit side on. It didn't capsize, not completely, but it threw 2 men overboard. 1 vanished instantly into the dark water. The other surfaced, coughing. "Man overboard!" Hayes yelled. She didn't wait for orders. She dove. The shock of the cold punched her lungs, but training overrode instinct. She kicked hard, scanning the churn for movement. Nothing. Then a flash of color below. She went deeper, fingers outstretched. The current pulled at her legs. She caught fabric, a sleeve, then an arm. The sailor's body was limp, eyes half open. Kicking upward, she broke the surface and dragged him toward the overturned Zodiac. Riker reached down, hooking his arms under the man's shoulders. Together, they hauled him in. Navarro's voice echoed from the dock. "Get him on the grinder. Move." They didn't have medics yet. The response time was theirs alone. By the time they reached shore, the man was pale, unresponsive. Hayes knelt beside him, fingers searching for a pulse. Faint. She started compressions. 30 counts, breath, 30 more. Her hands slipped on seawater and sweat. "Come on," she whispered. Riker hovered behind her, useless but unwilling to look away. "He's gone." "Shut up," she snapped. "He's not." Another round, then another. Finally, cough, a convulsion. Water spilled from his mouth. A ragged breath followed. Navarro knelt beside her, hand firm on her shoulder. "That's enough, Lieutenant." She sat back, chest heaving. The man she'd pulled from the ocean blinked weakly, alive. For a long moment, no one said anything. Only the sea filled the silence. Navarro stood and turned toward the formation gathering at the edge of the grinder. "You see that?" he barked. "That's what leadership looks like. That's what composure under pressure means." He looked down at her, voice low enough for only her to hear. "You just bought yourself a place here, Hayes." She didn't answer. She just nodded once, salt water running down her face like sweat. The rest of the morning blurred into cleanup and silence. When chow rolled around, trays clattered softer than usual. The usual jokes had been replaced by a kind of quiet respect that didn't need to be spoken. Riker dropped his tray across from hers. "You saved his life. Team did," she corrected. He smirked. "Team followed your lead." Navarro passed behind them, coffee in hand. "He's right, Lieutenant. Don't get modest on me now." Then, just as quickly, he was gone. That night, the barracks lights flicked out again. Hayes lay awake this time, staring into the dark. The roar of the surf outside sounded different now, less like a threat, more like a promise. Tomorrow there would be another drill, another test. The grinder never ended. But something had shifted. The laughter that once followed her had died in the salt and the sweat. And in its place, respect, quiet but solid, just like the sea itself. Morning broke clean and windless, the kind of dawn that hides no weakness. The grinder shimmered again beneath the rising sun, and the men moved to it without the usual chatter. Yesterday's chaos had burned something out of them. What remained was focus. Master Chief Navarro stood at the edge, clipboard tucked beneath his arm, eyes scanning the line. "Today's your final evolution," he said. "Obstacle course, timed, then we'll see who still wants to wear this uniform." He let the pause stretch until the silence hummed. Move. The team exploded into motion, over walls, through sand, under wire. Hayes hit the first wall hard, palms slapping wood slick with dew. She climbed, dropped, rolled, and ran again. Riker paced beside her, faces smeared with mud. Somewhere behind them, the rest cursed and stumbled through the dirt. Halfway through, the rope climb rose from the ground like a tower. Sweat dripped from the rope above as candidates slipped and tried again. Hayes jumped, caught the line, legs locking around it. She pulled herself hand over hand, breath burning in her chest. When she reached the top, she looked down. Navarro was watching, arms folded unreadable. She descended fast, landed, and kept running. No hesitation, no glance back. By the time she hit the finish line, lungs screaming, Riker was a step behind her. The stopwatch clicked. Navarro looked down at the numbers, then at her. "Fastest time today?" he said flatly. "By a margin." No one laughed this time. A few of the men nodded, small, quick gestures that said everything words didn't need to. Later, when the course was cleared and the sun started to drop behind the base, Navarro called formation again. The sea reflected orange light behind him, gulls wheeling above the docked boats. He paced once down the line, boots thudding slow and heavy. "You all came here thinking you knew what strength looks like," he began. "Some of you still think it's about muscle, about how long you can hold a log or how far you can run before your body quits. But strength's quieter than that. It's in the people who keep moving when everyone else decides it's impossible." He stopped in front of Hayes. "Lieutenant Hayes," he said, "you've been a pain in my side since day one." A few men chuckled, tired, genuine this time. "But you earned something out there yesterday. Not just my attention, my respect, and theirs." He turned to the formation. "Sound off." A beat of silence, then Riker's voice, "Hoo-ya, Lieutenant!" Another followed, then another. The sound rolled across the grinder, rough and real. Navarro let it settle before speaking again. "Remember this, all of you. Out there, the ocean doesn't care who you are. Rank doesn't save you. Gender doesn't save you. Only your will does. Today, Lieutenant Hayes proved hers." He extended his hand. She took it, grip firm, the gesture short but final. The sun was sinking when the formation broke. The smell of salt and diesel hung in the air. Gulls screamed over the pier. Hayes walked alone toward the edge of the beach. The Pacific stretched out endless and cold, reflecting streaks of gold and crimson. Riker joined her, still damp with sweat. "Never thought I'd see Navarro shake someone's hand." "Neither did I," she said. "You gonna celebrate?" She smiled faintly. "Tomorrow's another day on the grinder," he laughed once, low. "Guess it is." They stood for a while, saying nothing, the tide pulling at the sand around their boots. That night, the base quieted again. The barracks lights clicked off one by one until only the moon lit the room in silver stripes. Hayes lay back on her bunk, the inner muscles fading into something softer. Pride, maybe, or peace. Through the open window came the sound of the surf, steady and patient. The grinder waited for morning, and so did she. Because the grind never ends. It only changes shape. And on this stretch of concrete, under this merciless sun, she had finally earned her place. The training hall vibrated with early morning energy. Boots clanged against concrete, voices bounced off steel rafters, a mix of nerves, arrogance, and anticipation thick in the air. Rows of recruits stood shoulder to shoulder, uniforms crisp, eyes flicking toward the door with quiet impatience. When it swung open, laughter erupted. A woman stepped inside, quiet and composed. Her fatigues were worn from years of service, her boots scuffed, sleeves faded. Nothing about her screamed authority. Nothing until the small medal gleamed above her pocket. One recruit snorted, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Who gave her that participation ribbon from laundry duty?" A ripple of chuckles followed. She didn't flinch, didn't look up. She adjusted her sleeve, stepping into line when her name was called. The laughter faded when the instructor cleared his throat. Then the door opened again. A visiting SEAL commander entered, clipboard in hand. His eyes swept across the line, freezing when they landed on her. Recognition flickered across his face, subtle but undeniable. Before the chaos of training began, the voiceover cut in, calm and commanding. Subscribe to Whispered Logs to never miss true tales of courage. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from tonight. Sergeant Emily Rains had a way of existing in a room without demanding it. She didn't bark orders or raise her voice. She simply appeared, steady and deliberate, like a shadow that belonged. At Fort Benning, they called her the Observer. Officially, her orders described temporary attachment, oversight, and support. No rank pulled above anyone else's. No special treatment. Just a quiet figure who took notes during drills and offered corrections when safety or form faltered. Her barracks were tucked on the far edge of the base, the kind most people forgot existed. Mornings found her already at the mess hall, a mug of black coffee in hand, reading something dog-eared, a field manual, sometimes nothing at all. Recruits stumbled in half awake. She was long gone, moving silently across the training fields before the first drill began. Instructors never asked why. They didn't have time to ponder someone who caused no trouble. Her gear was impeccable, old-school precision, born of habit, not vanity. Socks rolled tight, boots aligned edge to edge, racks so crisp a coin could bounce off. Some noticed, most didn't. Private Dalton noticed. He was broad-shouldered, young, loud, and convinced the Army revolved around the swagger he hadn't earned yet. "Hey, Rains," he called, towel draped around his neck. "You been anywhere or you just read about it?" His buddies laughed. Emily paused mid-step, met his eyes for half a heartbeat. No glare, no challenge, just calm, unreadable focus. Then a slight nod and she walked on. Dalton frowned, unsettled. All day she moved between stations, quietly correcting grips, stances, and straps. She never snapped, never scolded. When demonstrating a kneeling position during weapons drills, her movements were fluid, precise, muscle memory, honed over years of repetition. A few instructors exchanged glances. Staff Sergeant Lopez whispered, "That's not textbook form, that's lived experience." No one asked her to explain. Off-duty, she maintained the same rigor. While others crowded the rec hall, she organized spent shells or realigned displaced targets. Precision was breathing for her. One evening, Lopez passed her bunk, noticing her folded uniform, perfect squares, sleeves aligned with ceremonial precision. "You sure you don't miss being in charge?" he asked. Emily's faint smile held only calm. You don't have to be in charge to set the standard. To the recruits, she was a mystery. Outdated uniform, plain boots, silent presence. Occasionally, a gleaming medal sparked curiosity. Dalton once laughed, "Bet that thing came in a cereal box." She didn't respond, only tightened her cap and continued. Those paying attention, however, noticed subtle clues. Her salute wasn't mechanical. It carried weight born from muscle memory and respect forged in moments heavier than drills. Her eyes constantly scanned corners, a habit cultivated in places where looking away could mean not coming back. Late at night, she sometimes stood under the floodlight by the old flagpole, holding a folded photo. No one witnessed her quiet smiles, her shadow of grief, the remembrance in her hands. She carried the past not as a wound, but as weight training, discipline to keep her steady. By the second week, Fort Benning's rhythm had shifted. Recruits were exhausted, sore, restless. The Navy SEALs arrived. Commander Jack Reeves, sharp-eyed and sharper-tongued, led them. Rumor alone made the recruits jittery. That morning, under a hard Georgia sun, they lined up for exercises. Emily stood among them, quiet and still. The recruits speculated her role. Laughing? Logistics, someone guessed. Assistant. Reeves entered, scanning the line. His voice, low and deliberate, cut through the noise. "You think rank defines experience, Private?" Every recruit froze. Laughter vanished. Reeves said nothing further, letting his presence alone enforce discipline. Emily remained calm, eyes straight ahead. The day unfolded, team maneuvers, tactical drills, obstacle courses. Reeves observed silently. Emily corrected stances and grips, her voice calm but commanding. "Trigger discipline," she murmured, adjusting a recruit's hold. Dalton rolled his eyes. "We got this." She only nodded and stepped back. During a close quarters formation drill, Emily noticed a recruit's stance faltering under fatigue. She crouched, adjusted his elbow, tapped his boot. Reset. Center your weight. He blinked, realizing she was right. Reeves's eyes tracked her, expression unchanged, but interest sparked in subtle shifts. The obstacle course tested every recruit. Panic struck one rookie halfway up a rope climb. He slipped, suspended midair. Medics shouted, chaos froze. Emily moved instinctively. She wrapped the anchor rope around her forearm, braced, and guided him up with surgical precision. Left foot down, hands higher, she instructed calmly. In seconds, the rookie regained footing. Medics arrived, and she stepped back as if nothing had happened. Reeves watched, silent, memory flickering. That night, recruits sat quietly in the mess hall. Dalton whispered, she knew exactly what to do. Another shrugged, maybe luck. Dalton shook his head. No, she's something else. Emily sat alone, writing notes under dim light, hands steady, calm. Her composure reminded men of discipline forged under fire, though none knew the full truth. Reeves in the operations office typed her name into the restricted system. Temporary attaché, former Joint Task Force classified assignment, level black clearance, missions buried in silence. The next morning, whispers spread among recruits. Dalton asked where she'd been deployed. No one knew, but the commander's gaze suggested recognition. Even instructors questioned her calm efficiency. By midweek, routine maintenance brought the recruits together under hangar lights. Emily disassembled an M4 with precise motions. Dalton leaned closer to a buddy. She handles that like a trophy, he whispered. Reeves noticed a faint glint on her wrist, a bracelet engraved with Mr. Team 9. Recognition crossed his features. Field experience, valor beyond what the base record suggested. A recruit asked, that medal? Emily replied softly, long story. Dalton smirked, unsure. Emily returned to her task, silent and exact. Later, the recruits executed a full combat simulation under Reeves's design. Communication lines failed, chaos spread. Dalton froze. Emily acted. She rerouted a field transmitter, improvised, restored order. Within seconds, units regained coordination. Her calm authority held the operation together. Reeves observed silently, impressed but controlled. By the end, the recruits had executed a flawless extraction. Dalton approached her, awed. Where'd you learn that? She shrugged, quiet. Old habit. Reeves met Patterson, base commander, later. Emily's record barely hinted at the truth. Operation Trident's Echo. Kandahar, 2012. She wasn't logistics. She'd saved lives under fire, rebuilt comms, guided men to extraction. Half the unit hadn't returned. Sealed operations. Recognition unnecessary. That night, Emily traced her bracelet, whispered a soft remembrance, then set her notes aside. Dalton replayed her calm, commanding actions. Respect had replaced mockery across the base. The next morning, under crisp air and aligned boots, Dalton couldn't help smirk under his breath, only to see Reeves stop at Emily's side. A quiet acknowledgement passed between them, heavy with history, unspoken but felt. The recruits witnessed it, realizing the quiet woman they'd ignored was the foundation of real courage. Emily's hand rose in a soft salute, measured and exact. One recruit mirrored her, then another, then the entire line. Dalton's helmet felt heavy with the weight of realization. She lowered her hand, nodded, and said softly, "At ease." Later, Dalton found her cleaning the rifle she'd used during drills. "I'm sorry," he said. Emily's gaze was calm. "Respect isn't about what you wear. It's how you stand when no one's watching." Dalton swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am." She nodded, returning to her task. Evening settled. Whispered respect filled the halls. The Hall of Valor held a photo, Emily amid desert sands, metal gleaming, the truth of her courage captured for those who sought to see. Outside, she walked the perimeter beneath the floodlights, paused at the flagpole, traced her bracelet, whispered remembrance. The recruits instinctively stood as she passed, not from orders, but from recognition of real courage. Her boots echoed as she disappeared into the mess hall glow. Silence followed, weighted with memory and respect. Courage, she knew, was never noise or medals. It was endurance, grace, and quiet acknowledgement. The morning sun crept over the horizon, painting Fort Benning in muted gold. The air carried that familiar tension, boots striking concrete, rifles at the ready, eyes forward. The recruits moved with the rhythm of routine, yet something had shifted. Respect lingered in their posture, subtle but unmistakable. Dalton felt it keenly. He no longer smirked or whispered. Every glance toward Emily Raines reminded him that quiet authority carried more weight than swagger ever could. Emily walked the perimeter before the day's joint exercise, hands clasped behind her back, eyes sweeping the training grounds. Her metal glinted faintly in the dawn, catching the first rays. The recruits fell silent as she passed, instinctively straightening, not out of fear, not out of order, but recognition. They understood something had changed. The joint exercise was different. Radios, comm grids, field coordination, all under pressure. Reeves had designed it himself. The objective was simple in words: coordinate 3 squads, secure multiple targets, extract without losing signal. The execution demanded precision. Dalton's squad took point. Loud, confident, but too loud. Orders scattered as static erupted across the headsets. Dalton froze, eyes darting toward the command tent. Comms had failed. Chaos spread fast. Reeves observed quietly, arms crossed, expression unreadable. The lesson was implicit. Control under pressure defined soldiers. Emily acted instantly, calm, precise, efficient. She moved to the perimeter relay box, hands stripping lines, rerouting connections, improvising on the spot. No hesitation. She clipped her headset on, issuing orders with a tone that carried authority without shouting. Within moments, the formation stabilized. Units moved as though the glitch had never occurred. Dalton, stunned, watched her orchestrate recovery with natural command. Reeves remained a silent observer, leaning against the platform rail, eyes tracking Emily. Recognition crossed his face again. She didn't just correct mistakes, she anticipated them. Every motion, every instruction carried experience forged under fire. By midday, the field sim concluded with near-perfect execution. Recruits were exhausted, sweating, but alive, successful. Dalton approached Emily, voice tight. Where did you learn to do that?" She gave a faint shrug. Old habit. No explanations necessary. Her calm, precise authority spoke volumes. Reeves later met with Colonel Patterson in the command office. Emily's record barely hinted at her true service. Operation Trident's Echo. Kandahar, 2012. Joint Task Force 9. Medal of Valor. Half her unit had never returned. The recognition had been sealed under classified orders. "Does she know you're here?" Patterson asked. Reeves shook his head. "Doesn't matter. She doesn't do this for acknowledgement." Even at the barracks, the recruits whispered. Dalton replayed her calm command during the comms failure. Miles shrugged. "Maybe luck?" Dalton shook his head. "No, she's something else." The respect that had replaced mockery rippled quietly through the base. Emily's nights were spent under dim light, folding uniforms, cleaning weapons, reviewing notes. The bracelet engraved with Mr. Team 9 rested on her wrist, catching the lamp's glow. Each movement was deliberate, precise. Her reflection in the darkened window showed only a soldier committed to habit, discipline, and quiet honor. The following morning, the recruits lined up for inspection. Boots pressed against concrete, rifles polished, uniforms crisp. Reeves paced slowly, clipboard tucked beneath his arm. Each step echoed authority without words. Dalton glanced at Emily. Her old fatigues, metal catching the sunlight, reminded him that appearances were deceptive. He almost smirked, then caught Reeves' pause beside her. Something unspoken passed between them, a recognition older than the base, deeper than rank. The first phase of the day was a full tactical simulation. Dalton's squad moved with confidence, yet their overconfidence faltered under realistic stressors. Smoke grenades, shifting terrain, unexpected obstacles. One rookie tripped, falling into the dirt, helmet sliding slightly. Dalton froze. Emily didn't. She crouched, guiding him upright with calm efficiency. One hand adjusted his stance, the other tapped his weapon placement. Feet shoulder width, eyes forward, reset. The rookie obeyed, astonished. Reeves watched silently from the platform, jaw tight. The correction wasn't just mechanical, it was instinctive, born from experience the recruits couldn't yet fathom. Dalton saw it too, and the weight of his own inexperience sank. Hours passed in relentless drills. Emily moved among the squads, unnoticed by most yet observed keenly by those who mattered. Minor errors vanished under her quiet corrections. She never raised her voice, never demanded attention, but the recruits responded as if her presence carried gravity. Each adjustment, each silent command reinforced that respect was earned through action, not titles. During a field exercise, a sudden comm failure plunged squads into near panic. Dalton barked orders, only to be met with static. Fear flickered across his face. Emily acted. She moved to the compromised relay pack, hands steady, improvising a solution using spare wiring from her own gear. Within moments, comms were restored. She directed the squads with a calm authority that cut through confusion. Orders flowed smoothly, execution precise. Dalton's jaw tightened. Where? How? His words trailed off. Emily's eyes met his briefly. Old habit, she said. Reeves approached the instructors after the exercise. That's Sergeant Rains, he asked softly. She's not on your active training roster? Lopez shrugged. Temporary attaché logistics observer. Reeves shook his head. Not quite. I know what she's done. The mention of Operation Trident's echo silenced the room. Kandahar, 2012. Medal of Valor. Half her unit never returned. Reeves' memory, alive with detail, reflected the weight of her actions. By evening, the barracks felt different. Recruits who had once mocked her boots and uniform now watched her quietly. They whispered among themselves, relaying stories of her calm, decisive actions. Dalton sat by the window, replaying her movements. Respect had replaced disbelief. Emily walked the perimeter under floodlights, bracelet catching the light. She paused at the flagpole, fingers tracing the engraving. Mr. Team 9. Softly, she whispered something inaudible. Not pride, not regret, remembrance. The recruits instinctively stood as she passed. No commands were given, only recognition. Her boots echoed across the pavement as she returned to the barracks. Dalton watched, chest tight, mind racing. Silence followed her, heavy with unspoken acknowledgement of courage and experience beyond their comprehension. The next morning brought final inspections. Reeves paused at Emily's side, a quiet nod passing between them. History and memory carried the weight of understanding no rank could confer. Dalton's respect deepened, personal and profound. Later, she packed her duffel, transfer orders tucked neatly beside her. Another base, another rotation. No fanfare, no announcement. She zipped the bag, the metallic sound echoing faintly in the quiet room. The recruits approached, hesitant. Dalton spoke first. Ma'am, we just wanted to say thank you. Emily's faint smile carried understanding. Keep each other sharp, that's what matters. She slung her duffel over her shoulder, walking across the yard. The recruits straightened, offering small, respectful nods. No salute was required. This was personal, earned. The gate stood open. Reeves waited silently. They exchanged a brief, firm handshake. We're even, she said quietly. He nodded. Her figure disappeared into the fading light. The metal on her uniform glinted softly as the last sun dipped behind the base. The narrator's voice whispered over the scene. Some medals are worn on the chest. Others live in the silence that follows a salute. Dalton remained, eyes fixed on the gate. He whispered, Thank you, ma'am, as the wind carried her memory across the base. Courage, discipline, and respect, earned silently, lasting beyond a single rotation, beyond recognition, beyond the noise. The field fell silent. The flag rippled in the evening breeze. The recruits stood at attention, heads bowed slightly, carrying the weight of a lesson learned without words. And in the distance, Emily Rains moved on. Another mission, another base, another quiet act of heroism, leaving behind a legacy defined not by medals alone, but by enduring presence, calm authority, and unspoken valor.